I'd like to welcome everyone to this month's Repairers Realm. This month we're going to be talking about spray gun operation and maintenance. We want to remind everyone, if you're watching on demand, you can, live, you can put your questions in the tab on the right of the screen. And if you're watching on demand, you can submit any questions you have to repairersrealm@i-car.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about this month's episode. I'm Scott Van Hooley. I'm with the RTS team here at iCar. And TJ?
I'm TJ O'Rourke, one of the subject matter experts here at the Appleton Tech Center. And we also have
Luis Martinez. I'm a subject matter expert from the Chicago Tech Center.
And joining us this month is Tony Larimer from SATA. Tony, you can give us a brief introduction of yourself? Can you hear me, Tony?
There you go. Sorry, had myself muted. I'm Tony Larimer. I'm with Dan Am Company. We're the importer for the U.S. for SATA spray equipment and filtration and all of our SATA products.
All right. So, we're going to talk about the spray gun setup in this first little clip here, and so everyone can watch it, and we'll have a little discussion afterwards. And like I said, any questions that you think of during the episode, just go ahead and submit them at the repairersrealm@icar.com or right in the chat.
So hey Tony, you're gonna demo some spray guns today, some SATA spray guns. We're gonna shoot water and solvent. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the guns that you brought today?
Okay, all right. Well, the first one is the one that we're going to shoot the waterborne base coat with. And the base coat you guys chose to shoot today is a Spies high-tech product. And so we're going to spray that with a nozzle set that's a 1.3i nozzle. They also recommend that we can use a 1.2 nozzle, but that would be more of a climate where it's super humid. Mm-hmm. Well, right now out here it's fairly cool and super dry day, and we're going to be in a booth with a lot of airflow, so humidity is not going to be an issue. So we'll shoot this 1.3i. It's in a gun that we call the SATA Jet X 5500 in an RP nozzle. RP for us stands for low pressure or reduced pressure. We're going to spray this at 24 psi is where we're going to put our coverage coat on, and then immediately we're going to back up about 12 to 14 inches. We'll start out at about 5 inches is about where we'll be with a real high overlap, probably between 75 and 80%. And then we'll back up to 12 to 14, and we're just going to put on our drop coat immediately. So it's a coat and a half, very, very quick demonstration.
Nice. One question: what's the difference between a colored gun and a chrome one? I noticed. Oh, they're painted now.
Yeah, no, it is a surface coating that SATA uses for their guns, and this color is super easy to clean. So instead of having chrome, it doesn't scratch as easy. Nothing sticks to it as well as it does to chrome. It might have abrasions to it, whatever. So it's a much easier gun to clean.
Nice.
But some of the other things that we did with this gun, SATA has for years done this quick cup connect system. So inside there are no threads. And so the cup just drops in and it quarter turns. So that's much smoother surface, is also much easier to clean. And you'll also notice that this is less than one revolution to take the air cap off. So big threads, easy to clean. And we've only got about a 1-inch fluid passage, so it's really simple to rinse this out, and no packings inside that passage or anything. So they made it super easy to clean.
Yeah, you don't just have to sit there and turn it.
Yep, nope, that made it easier. The other thing that's important about this, and when I talk about this being a I nozzle set, in our X5500 we have either I or O, and that's really related to the shape of the fan. And so an I fan is made to be stretched a little bit taller, and by being stretched taller, it's narrower. And we did that so that it spreads the material out more evenly through the fan for waterborne, and a little narrower because we also want it to go on and have the air that's blowing on the panel from the spray gun to atomize it faster, and for the flash off times for waterborne, which could be slower, it helps to flash that off quicker. When we talk about an O-shaped fan, which we also could spray, if I went with a 1.2 nozzle set for this instead of a 1.3, I'd be in a 1.2 O shape. That's simply a little bit shorter, and it's wider this way. And by doing that, it lets us get a little more wetting, a little more gun speed. So for people that like to paint a little faster, they may go with an O nozzle. I typically like to spray that way, but with this waterborne base, they really like this 1.3i. If we go down to the 1.20, it's really like going down a half a step, because now I'm not making a full step from a 1.3 to a 1.2. I'm only going a half a step. We went from a 1.3i down half a step to a 1.20, and that makes it a little more easy for the painters, because now a painter doesn't have to make a full leap. And you can decide as a painter, do I like to spray with an O pattern or an I pattern? And now I can make the gun spray the way that I like to paint, rather than having to change the way I spray, trying to make the gun perform. So yep, again, we're going to shoot it at 24 PSI. We'll back up from that 5-inch range up to about 12 inches, and we're going to put a drop coat on immediately following the coverage coat. So that will be pretty simple, and we don't have to change the pressure when we back up and do that drop coat.
The drop coat, okay.
Well, then when we go to solvent, you'll notice a different gun.
Yes.
This blue gun we call our SATA Jet 1500B Solve, and it was made with solvent in mind. The droplet size that we need for the proper wetting for solvent-borne paint is what they designed this for. We kept it a super lightweight little gun handle. We've had this handle on a lot of our guns over the years. It's the same handle shape that we've used on our 100Bs for the last 8 or 9 years with no issues. I mean, super durable. So we just changed the head on this. SATA built a new head assembly for a new air cap and fluid tip and needle design, just for spraying solvent-borne top coat. So this is what we'll spray the base coat solvent with.
Quick question, what's the difference? Is there the insides, the needle? What's the difference
Well,
between the water?
The biggest thing is when we get from in the waterborne version, I mean, this 5500 gun is going to have a slightly larger fan, but the droplets are going to be slightly closer together. Going to give us a little bit less wet droplet for spraying more high solids products, maybe for spraying waterborne base coat. Where this one, the droplets are going to be shaped more, that really just work better with a solvent.
But they're made the same?
Yeah, there's no quality differences.
No, I'm talking maybe about using it for water. It won't rust.
Oh no, absolutely no. Neither one. Any of our guns that we have are all stainless steel fluid tips and needles. The air caps that SATA uses on either gun are brass, not aluminum, and we make them brass because brass is a much harder material than aluminum, and it withstands friction of paint and air blowing through it and cleaning and stuff. It's much more durable for a lot longer life. So yeah, otherwise no, there's no difference, just the droplet size.
Very nice.
Yeah, yep.
And how about the adjustments before spraying? Is there some special adjustments between the guns?
Well, we're going to spray this gun. On the side of each of these spray guns, we have a fan control knob. And really, you could call that a fan control. You could also call it a round or flat spray knob. If it's all the way forward, it's flat spray, meaning the fan's going to be taller. If you start to turn that down, if you turn it all the way, it would go all the way to a round spray. And somewhere in the middle, it would give you kind of a football-shaped fan. So we typically spray more on the wide open side. So we're going to spray with this on a wide open fan. The fluid control knob on the back is what controls how far your needle can pull back or how far your trigger can come in. So if I turn that in, it limits my trigger, limits how much fluid can come out. We're going to spray that at wide open needle, wide open fluid, and
how do you know when you're wide open?
Well, the best thing I like to do before I put paint on the gun is to pull the trigger and turn this knob in until it touches the trigger, and then I know I'm full trigger.
The trigger.
Yep. And then the fan I'll leave wide open, and then on the rear of this, we're going to adjust the air pressure with what we call an Atom 2. And this is, it stands for Additional Digital Air Micrometer. So it's a way to take the air micrometer knob out of the back of your gun. You can put in a dock, and it lets you mount a digital gauge right to the rear of your spray gun, so that when you slide this in, I'm looking right at it. And what's nice about that is if I have a primer gun, maybe a small mini gun, or multiple top coat guns, I can go from one gun to the other. So I only need one digital gauge and just multiple docks. So, yep. So we're going to be able to adjust the pressure exactly, and being left or right-handed, having that gauge looking right at you is a great way, because if you know that this color needs to be sprayed at 24 pounds, And if you've got a gauge hanging off the bottom down on the side, you may not look at it.
Right.
Or you may glance at it and go, close enough.
Close enough. I understand. I
where
wish
would-
that was around when I was painting.
Yeah, because now what's nice is with having the atom on these is it holds you accountable. You can be more repeatable,
Right.
and it lets you know when you're off, so you can adjust it.
Nice. Very nice. And I see you got a blower here for the water gun.
Yeah. So this one is called a SATA Dry Jet 2. We had an older green version for years, but they really improved this 4 or 5 years ago. This Dry Jet 2, what really has big advantages is when you're in a booth that has a lot of airflow, on your flats and stuff, you may not need it. But when you get into the concaves and on the side of a vehicle, or you got a small part, or you got areas where you've done a blend and maybe you overlapped a little bit more and you need to speed the drying process up, waterborne base loves airflow. And so what this one does is we plug this into your hose. And the great advantage of this is the SATA has developed this to only use 9.2 CFM. So at 9.2 CFM, it's super low on air volume. It's not taxing your compressor too badly. But it also sucks air into the rear of this, where we have a strainer on the back, so that when it's pulling booth air in and it blows out of the front, it goes through this and creates a vortex that tumbles the air, but it magnifies the air. So it magnifies it by 10 times. So if I put 92 CFM in, we get if I put 9 CFM, 9.2 CFM, we get 92 CFM out. And so by having that much air volume blowing across the surface, it really helps to carry the water away.
Especially on the humid days.
Yeah, really humid days, that really helps. But what you also have to remember is many people try to get in too close to an object, and they're using blowers that are small that maybe look like a little comb or
Right.
whatever, but they have such high velocity that when you blow air across the surface, it'll blow across, and it may look like the base coat's dry. You go in and clean out your base coat gun, come back to clear, and your base coat's wet again because it didn't take a whiff. So having this, we have the ability it scrubs and carries it at a slower velocity, so the air has more time to pick up the water and take it with it. Plus, we can adjust this. So if I have to spray across the hood, I can do that.
Nice.
If I'm spraying down the side, you got a door, fender, quarter, or 2 doors and a fender, you can literally stand, you want to make sure you stand 2 to 3 feet from the object and blow it at an angle. So if we were blowing this table, I'd blow it like this, 2 to 3 feet off of it at an angle, and let it help blow across the surface. And you'll stand off the other end of like this table's about the size of a small car. You stand down on the other end and you would feel a huge amount of air volume blowing across it. So to help speed up base coat, which is important to get efficiency through a shop.
Very nice. Very nice.
So we're going to use these RPS cups. For SATA, it stands for Rapid Preparation System. And this, you'll notice it has a lid. And with these lids, we have the option, we have a couple different options, or 3 different options of strainers actually. We have just a plug-in strainer, sieve, that just presses into the lid. So that goes in the lid for anybody with spraying solvent-borne base coat, solvent-borne clear, that works fine. It's a 200 micron strainer.
Okay.
We also, you'll notice on the bottom of this cup, I have a little cap on here. So this comes with your lid. There's 2 of them on here.
Okay.
I snap that off and just press it onto my cup, and you hear how it multiple clicks. You'll know that's fully engaged when you set it down. It doesn't wobble, so it's flat. But that's actually a plug to keep paint from pouring out, but it's also a vent. And where that's really important is now when we have this full of paint, and I put this on my spray gun, when I'm going to spray, I open that. It just clicks open halfway. Now when I paint with this, I have a vented system that lets me spray whether I have a full cup or only have 1 ounce in here. My flow rate is the absolute same. And where that's really important is if I'm spraying something with a metallic or, there's many of these difficult colors today, we want to make sure that our fan shape stays identical from whether I have a full cup to empty. Right. So many times we'll see someone painting that doesn't have a vent with a liner system, where they start on one fender and paint up across the fender. They get 2/3 of the way across the hood, and they're down where they maybe have less than a half a cup of base coat, and their fan started to shrink.
Is that because it's starving for air?
It's starving for air. you know, and so what's nice about this is that it helps to keep that from happening. So now what happens if they do start for air, then they have to back up, disconnect, shake their gun, pull air back in the bag, and then start over. Now you have 2 or 3 passes that you have to make
Right.
to fix what is already starting with a stripe or a blotch. And so it also is important because when we're clear coating something, we want to make sure, and depending on the clear coat, but most paint companies want to make sure you have 2 mils of clear when you're done. And if you've got something that's restricting your flow, you may not have that. And you don't know that until you get a stone chip and you get a job that peels
Right.
or something. The other thing that's important is now with this, I mean, when we're mixing paint, we want to be as efficient as possible and only mix what we're going to spray. And so what's great about that with this is with a vent system, I can spray all the way to empty. So if I need 4 ounces or I need 3 ounces, that's all I have to mix. I don't have to mix extra paint to try and make up for the fact that I
Compensate.
can't get it all out because I don't have a liner. So efficiency-wise, yes, learn to mix exactly what you need across your scale, and you're going to be a lot more efficient at the end of a week in the shop.
Very nice. Very nice.
The other thing that is nice about this, we do get questioned, well, now if I have this open, how do I spray underneath a rocker or underneath a wheel opening or whatever? Well, you just grab this and tilt it, and you can get underneath and spray in those difficult to reach areas.
Wow.
So that helps. You can grab it and tilt it off to the side if I got to get into a recess. But you can, like, again, it just makes that work pretty well for spraying
yes,
underneath.
especially for doing rockers. Yes, very nice option.
Yep. And then I think when we're all done with that, we'll probably do a demonstration on how to clean them,
How to clean 'em.
properly. And I think that's probably the worst thing that happens in a shop sometimes is bad habits and old habits ingrained. So I know how much people love cleaning spray guns, but we're going to do a demonstration here in a little bit, show you how to do that properly.
Why don't you tell us about the static gun?
All right, this is by ProStat or Static Solutions. This is something that we're going to use today before we paint. So before we shoot base coat, before we shoot clear, we're going to use this. And what it's for, many people think that a static gun is only going to help them with maybe keeping some of the dirt nibs out of their paint job and save them a lot of time that way, and that is true. It definitely helps to cut down trash in the paint work. But where it also is something that's very helpful at a shop is if you have multiple surfaces. So you may have plastic bumpers, of course, you may have, you know, aluminum and steel and everything mixed on a vehicle. You want to make sure that when your color is going down on all of them, that we're evenly static controlled, or that we eliminate static evenly across all surfaces, so that when we spray a color on there, it's not reacting differently to the different substrates, or that it might have a different amount of static and giving us different metallic control or different colors. So it helps to solve some of those color match issues.
So it's not just for plastic.
No, it's not just for plastic. It should be for everything. Anything that every time you take a tack rag to something, or a solvent cleaner or waterborne cleaner, and you wipe something, you create static instantly in one wipe of the hand. And so it eliminates that from all surfaces. But where it also can help is when we get into recesses, you know, because most recesses on a bumper or inside of a grill area or anything like that where you have those recesses, if you've got static, it will not really like to accept paint. And so with a waterborne base coat, that's probably a better case scenario in some cases, but people will find that they can go in and maybe over apply using their spray gun. They'll just pour more paint into that to try to get rid of some of the static. So, and then if you're going to have a little run, it's always in a tough spot to sand out coming out of the edge, out of one of those recesses.
Right.
But it also uses more base coat that can be a waste. So instead of using 4 ounces for that front bumper, now I just use 5 ounces or 6 ounces because I had to over apply to kill the static.
Right.
So yeah, it's got a lot of solutions. It helps to eliminate the static, which helps to control the color. It helps to control the evenness of the metallics. It helps also in some of those cases to eliminate some waste on product. And the most important part is eliminating some of the dirt that lands in a paint job that we got to clean up later. So we'll use this before we paint.
All right, so that's the first video clip, and you know, Tony, it's one of the things that we started talking about doing this episode. It's really impressive how much technology goes into something as, you know, as seemingly as simple as a spray gun to deal with all these different products that we have to use in the shop today.
Well, there's, you know, it's one thing is SATA's been very good at is I've been with this company, Dan Am, for 27 years. And when we every trip over to the factory, or when they bring their R&D team and their application specialists over to the U.S., they work closely with all of the paint companies, and they're working on things all the time to make certain that we have the correct atomization, the correct film build, the color control, the durability. All of those things is really important, and what they've been able to come up with is a way to make the atomization not just fine, but make those droplets very, very close together. And by having those droplets so closely together, when you make a pass across the vehicle, it allows the droplets being close enough together, you're not having to slow down and wait for those drops to fill the gaps. So by having that closeness together, we're getting very even coverage very quickly. So we get coverage on a panel with less coats and using less product, and getting great results and still having the film build that we need.
Nice. I want to apologize for calling it a water gun. It's a blow gun.
Oh,
On the video.
that's all right. I knew what you meant.
So just like to remind everyone, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll answer them at the end of the episode. And also, same thing for on demand. Go ahead and submit those at repairsrealm@i-car.com. And with that, we're going to get into a video clip on using the spray guns to spray a fender.
So now we're in the spray booth, Tony. You're going to show us some pointers on how to adjust the gun and how to check for the pattern.
Yeah. So some of the main things that we want to make sure is, the first thing I did before I put paint on the cup was pull the trigger fully and turn my fluid control in against the trigger, so I know I'm at full open trigger. I've also set my fan control at wide open, so fully forward, so that I know I've got a flat fan. Mm-hmm. One thing you may notice, if you shoot a test pattern and you see maybe a loose edge off the top and bottom where it's not a real clean overspray band, then I may adjust that just, maybe an eighth of a turn or something really small just to clean up that edge. But usually we can just shoot it full open. I'll set my air pressure at the rear of the gun with this Atom. There's two red adjustment wings on here that I'll set that at 24 PSI for this application. And then we'll set that at half trigger, and then not aimed at the panel, but in the pit, I will pull the trigger fully then before I do my test pattern to make sure it stays right at 24 pounds. Okay. And that's where we're going to be. Now, when we shoot that test pattern, that's where sometimes it can be tricky, and where people will see a variety of different methods. But what we like to show is I set it at, I'm going to be at between that 5 and 6 inch range. Okay. But when I pull the trigger for shooting that test pattern, I'm going to pull that trigger fully, but I'm going to hold it and say 1001 and let go of the trigger. So it's always going to be 1001, let go of the trigger. And if you do that every time, each time you check your fan pattern, you're going to get the same result. Okay. Instead of maybe pulling shorter or longer, where you can really exaggerate the size of a fan if you hold the trigger too long, or you can just pull it too quick, and it won't show you if your base coat's filling out your fan correctly or not.
Tony, very nice. Everything looks very nice. We're going to shoot clear now?
Yeah, so we're going to try this high solids clear. We're going to spray it with the 1500 Solve. It's a 1.3 RP. We'll set the pressure at 26 pounds. Okay. And then the fan
any adjustments to it?
Yeah, the fan will be wide open. The fluid knob I've already set full open. Okay. So again, we'll spray this one as a coat and a half clear. We'll put the half coat down first, or a thin wet coat, and then followed by immediately with a full wet coat. And we'll do this panel first and then go right to the other one. So
very nice.
One coat application should go pretty quick.
So application went pretty well, it looks like, in the video clip, so that's always a good thing. No runs or anything, so that's always a good day.
Yeah. No, I think that, it was hard to tell because we had to, obviously edit the video. But when in that waterborne situation, we sprayed a wet coat, just backed up to that between 10 and 12 inches and did a quick drop coat. And then when we did the solvent, that was a 2-coat covering colors. So we sprayed and we let it flash in between coats for about 10 minutes and then put the second coat on. So both of them, yeah, the colors laid down nice and the clear coat did as well.
Okay. So with that, so we'll go to the next video for the cleaning of the spray gun, and then we'll answer any of the questions that you submitted in the chat or on the Repairers Realm at i-car.com.
So now we're gonna clean the water-based gun?
Yeah, yeah, so we'll shoot. This one's a little bit different, only that we're gonna use a waterborne cleaner from, I think this one's from Becca.
Correct.
So we'll use this first. So again, same procedure. I'll open that, just squeeze this and shut it. Turn it over and pull the trigger and it just vacuums all of that paint back out. For just like normal, we'll
Just like the solvent.
take the air cap off.
air
Yep.
cap.
And we'll just give this a quick flush.
So basically, it's the same steps between a solvent paint and a water-based paint.
Yeah,
just-
the only difference would be I'm going to clean this with a water-based cleaner, and then I will rinse it at the end with solvent just to get any moisture evaporated out of the gun, so we're not leaving any kind of moisture, because we're dealing with stainless steel parts
Right.
and aluminum gun bodies. And we've done enough in the welding industry and things to learn a lot about galvanic corrosion, so
Correct.
we try not to leave it sit like that. And so for now, that's the pre-rinse. So we'll do just like we did before, remove the needle. So the fluid knob comes out. When the needle comes out, I'll wipe it. And you'll see there is paint on there. That's wiped, and so I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of thinner. So I know when this is done, that needle is done. Removing the fluid control, or fluid knob. Is easy. We'll clean that in a little bit, but now it's just this gun body. So again, I'm going to make sure I have this aimed down. I plug the hole on the bottom so you have a big fluid opening.
Okay.
I'll just cover that with my finger. First we'll hit it with a little bit of this waterborne cleaner. Usually I try to look and see, and I think it looks like we got it, but I want to make sure. We'll just give it a quick rinse then once we're all done with thinner, and then I know that thing's done. That little splash, we're pretty well done with that gun body. I like to blow them dry. So look it over. I do see a little bit overspray on here. So we'll wipe it off with aerosol cleaner, or you can use thinner. Wipe it off. The gun body's now clean. The fluid tip, we'll rinse this with the water.
It's the same procedure as far as lubrication, same thing daily
Yep.
and then
Yep.
weekly?
Yeah, I would just I would clean it like this at the end of the day, take it apart. All through the day, we'll just, usually we'll just pull the between colors.
Right.
We may just give it a good flush and rinse, go on to the next color, but at the end of the day, take it apart. And you're not taking many parts off, you're taking the fluid tip out and the air cap off and making sure they're clean.
Correct.
It gives you a chance to take a look at it, make sure sometime I haven't bumped it or dropped it or damaged it. It gives you a little bit of an inspection point. And this is done. I mean, there really isn't anything inside. You
Right.
can see this looks like brand new. I'm just going to clean the outside. Just with the rag. If you do have a couple of specks of paint you can see on it, that's where just using that soft brush. Every time I do a cleaning with a brush or anything, I like to rinse it and then blow it dry. So I mean, we're looking at very little amount of fluid being used
Yes,
to do this.
that's what I noticed. It's very little
And then I'm going to go ahead and grease.
waste of thinner and water cleaner.
Right, you don't.
It's not like the old days.
No, you shouldn't have to. You know, especially it helps that obviously we're using a disposable cup. You know, so the biggest waste we used to have was cleaning our 1 liter aluminum cups or
Yeah.
whatever. That was where you used more than anything. So again, on this needle, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on the needle shaft and on that round barrel. I'll put just a little bit on the air piston behind the trigger. And on this threads on my fluid control knob. Tighten the fluid tip. Stick the paint needle, the spring.
What are the other things you see that the painters out in the field do wrong?
Well,
with it?
one thing I will see with this is not putting any lubrication on this. And that really is something that can really help just make that packing, which is right in the middle of the spray gun,
Correct.
last a lot longer. I would say that's probably one of the things that I see a lot. And the other thing you'll catch people doing is they think they should leave thinner or something in their cup on the top, you know, and they'll stick that on there. Or in the old days when we had cups on them, they would throw their air cap inside a thinner on the cup. You don't need to do that. That air cap shouldn't have paint in it anyway. The only way it got in there was by cleaning it wrong to start with. So don't throw that in thinner, because you see there is a seal inside of that yeah, it holds up to solvent, but it doesn't live in it, you know. So it can swell up and have damages to that. So, but that's really all there is to cleaning this gun, you know. And we kind of wiped off the body and stuff a little bit, but I just want to make sure. I see I had a little bit of my hand had paint on it, got it on the atom gauge, that wipes right off. So that's gun cleaning and general weekly maintenance, you
Very
know,
nice.
with your grease, and these tools are gonna last a long, long time.
Very nice, Tony. Well, thank you very much.
All right, so that's the last section of the videos that we have. So we're going to jump right into the questions here. And TJ, you want to lead us off with our first question?
Sure. First one that is in, did you spray a drop coat with the solvent like you did with the waterborne?
On this color, it really had very little metallic in it. It was purely solid, so we chose not to. We sprayed 2 full wet coats, and it looked pretty even when we got done, and elected not to shoot one. Otherwise, I normally would just back up a little bit and put a drop coat on, but in this case, we chose not to. In the solvent, we did on the water.
Next question. Can you repeat the air pressure used for clear coat?
Yeah, in that spray gun, we used the SATA Jet 1500B RP with a 1.3, and I sprayed it at 26. It was a pretty high solids clear. When we get into a little bit lower solids clears that might be a really fast clear, I usually start around 22, and you can find yourself spraying anywhere in that 20 to 22 range on the fast ones. With the higher solid stuff with this RP, I usually shoot it right at 26. And it gets super hot out. I might be down as low as 24 with that, but in this case, it was 26 PSI.
Speaking about your RP, this next question might relate to that. Are there any state or local municipalities restricting what type of guns a painter could use?
Yeah, there are. However, with the SATA Jet RP guns that we've developed, or SATA developed, we have to get the approval, and the biggest part of that approval is passing the test for what the most stringent place in the country is, and that's for South Coast Air Quality Management District, and all of our SATA Jet RP versions have that approval, and it's quite a lengthy test that has to be done by an independent lab. And so there's a lab in Germany, the Fraunhofer Institute, that does all of these tests where they spray hundreds and hundreds of panels on foils, spray on small 7-inch panels, larger, I don't know if they're 14 or 18-inch panels. They all have to be sprayed and then weighed, and all of that has to be video recorded and monitored for the to prove that the RP guns have equal to or greater than the HVLP spray guns. And then all of that data gets sent to South Coast Air Quality Management District, and after their review, then they give us the approval. So it's an expensive process, it's a lengthy one, but SATA makes certain that they have that approval on all of them.
Nice, Tony. Next question. Are they the I and O air cap interchangeable?
Yeah, what you have is in the SATA Jet X 5500, both HVLP and RP, we have two options for a fan shape. One is we call O shape, which the O shape is just slightly shorter, but it's wider in width. So it's slightly wider this way, and a little bit shorter to give you a more focused wetting. Most solvent products and painters that spray solvent tend to like that, and painters that like to spray closer to the vehicle and with a lot higher speed typically like that O-shaped fan. When we get into waterborne, typically we'll see people starting maybe with the I-shaped fan, and the I-shaped fan puts out the same amount of paint per minute as an O-shaped fan does in the same size. So let's say you have a 1.30 and a 1.3i. They put out the same amount of paint per minute, but in the I shape, the fan it gets taller by about an inch, and it's narrower this way to give you a skinnier fan. And what that does is it helps to spread the fan out a little taller, and through that narrower fan, it helps to atomize the water out of it quicker. It also gives you a slightly slower speed. So if you're a painter that chooses to spray a little slower, or you like a little more gun distance, the eye can be a little more forgiving for you. And so what SATA did was, by creating the I's and the O's, a painter can choose if they want to spray closer and faster or further away a little slower, feeling like they have a little more control. So it's their choice, and they can choose the nozzle that makes the gun spray the way the painter sprays, rather than trying to change the way they paint to make a gun work.
Tony, we got someone asking, what type of grease did he use to lubricate the gun, and are there any lubricants you should be staying away from?
Well, the gun grease that we use is one that SATA has been selling for a lot of years, and it's a white grease, but it is, the stuff is not like contaminant. I mean, it's also food grade quality, which I wouldn't recommend eating it, but it helps to lubricate the guns. We'll use them on the threads on a filter, on O-rings, on different things, but it doesn't cause a contamination, but it doesn't easily wash off. So by using a grease like that rather than an oil, it doesn't wash off with thinner so quickly. So you can do it once a week, or once every couple of weeks, and it's going to last. There's a lot of oils out there, and you get some of those oils and they really can make a mess. You put it on, and it can run down when you try to just get the air piston rod, it can get all over your trigger and all down the gun handle, and also it's easily washed off with thinner, which does no good after the first cleaning. So we definitely would recommend use one that's made to and safe to use in this paint business that we're in, and that the SATA grease provides that, and a tube of that lasts you for a very long time.
We have one more question, Tony. If you
Okay.
use a different type of cup, does that affect the gun performance?
Sorry, that cut out a little bit. I didn't hear the question.
Yeah. if you use a different type of cup, spraying cup, does that affect
Yep.
the spray gun performance?
Well, I guess it can if for a couple of reasons. Most other brands of cups that you would put on have an adapter that has to go into the gun, so that adapter can extend the fluid passage quite a bit. That could cut your flow rates. Also makes it a lot more work to clean and more to clean, and changes the balance on the gun. But the cup itself, if it does not have a vent like ours, if you're using a system with a liner, yes, it definitely can impact it. You can see your flow rates change, your film builds change, your color can shift. So we would certainly hope that you'd use one like ours with a vent to make sure that you have adequate film build and color match.
Looks like last one just came in, Tony. Shop I work at supplies the cups. Is there an adapter for different types of cups?
Oh yeah, for different guns. Yeah, we do have RPS adapters, and so they fit nearly, probably 99% of the guns that are out there being used. We do have adapters for that. That is something you can ask your local distributor. We publish that in all of our catalogs. Our latest catalog is catalog number 31. If you want one of those full line catalogs, you can give us a call at 800-533-8016, and our girls in the office would be glad to take your call and mail you a catalog. And in that, it does have a nice chart to make it easy to figure out which adapter you need for any other brand of gun too.
All right. Well, it looks like we're out of questions for today. Tony, thank you for making the trip up to Wisconsin in the winter and trying to adjust your schedule for all the storms and everything else that we had fun to get you up here. And appreciate your time. And join us next month at the last Wednesday of the month for the next episode of Repairers Realm.
All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you.